Welcome to Origin Stories. I'm RD.
I'm Parrot.
We're telling stories behind the digital art revolution.
Each week we interview top artists
and live stream with the community.
Let's go. Today is tomorrow's origin story.
Garyvee, welcome to Origin Stories.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much for having me.
This came together fast and I could not be more thrilled. We go way back. I don't even know if you know this, but we go back to, I think, 2007. How about that?
Seems like yesterday. I do know, and it's crazy that it's been that many years already.
Insane. And so now we find ourselves years later intersecting in the wonderful world of NFTs. So tell the people, what is your origin story?
In the macro or in the world of NFT?
Let's go blitz style macro, just in case somebody doesn't know. Yep. And then let's get deep into the NFT space.
You know, born in the Soviet Union, very fortunate to be able to be a refugee and get out in the late 70s. Poor kid, lived in Queens and New Jersey. Parents made their American dream. Dad became a stock boy in a liquor store, eventually a manager, eventually bought his own small store, which meant we saved every penny, bought nothing. You know, that created with my natural entrepreneurial DNA and then my circumstance and environment, created incredible ambition and scrappiness, shoveling snow, washing cars, selling lemonade, you know, it was just always there. Sports cards exploded in the late 80s, became a cultural phenomenon similar to where it's at right now. Mm-hmm. That's where I really learned my craft, doing baseball card shows, really became a buyer and seller. Got dragged into my dad's liquor store because now he had one, stocking shelves, $2 an hour, you know, merchant's son, kind of 1940s, 50s style, right? Like immigrant life, terrible student, really good businessman as a kid, discovered the internet in 95, 2 seconds in, said, oh my God, this is gonna change my life. Year later, launched an e-commerce website for my dad's wine shop, one of the first in the country. Took over operations and ran the business from 98 to 2011. And in that 13-year window, built my dad's business from a $3.8 million to a $65 million business. No capital infusion, no VC money, no credit line, just fucking grinded it. Innovated, email. You know, NFT right now is just deja vu. You know, all the games being formulated, the winners and the losers. There's some big differences, but a lot of similarities. Who were going to be the search engines? Who were going to be the domain sites where you registered your name? Who were going to be, you know, and then really it culminated with YouTube. I won on email and Google AdWords, but then YouTube changed my life. I started a wine show. I learned about content, became completely obsessed with the next revolution that I saw, which was social media. I've been talking about NFT as the third revolution for me personally. There's been a lot of technology. What's that?
Connected those dots, social media, NFTs. I've been hearing you say that recently.
For me, in my chemicals, 95.6, just kind of internet, consumer internet, obviously was happening before. 2005-6, social web 2.0, obviously was happening before with Friendster. Same with NFT now, right? You know, one of the reasons I posted a video for me in 2010 talking about virtual goods is I've been watching. You know, I bought Ethereum in 16, I bought Bitcoin in 14. I've been watching, but I haven't been talking because for me, I'm not the person that is there from day one and constantly there. I am there from day one and then I watch. And what I look for is why I've been talking since winter is the moment where I'm like, oh shit, it's time. I mean, I'm spending a ton of time on VR. I don't think I've said a single public thing about VR. And then in 2027, when it's time, I'll be very loud. The OGs will be like, hey, is this guy? And I'll be like, hey, OGs, I'm here to respect. You know, I'm on this podcast out of respect, to be honest with you. I did it with Web 2.0. I did it with Web 1.0. Like I watch and then I enter. I am definitely a consumer human more than a technologist. So that comes with great excitement, but also caution. And that's what I'm spending time on now. Caution, empathy, compassion, thoughtfulness. I love this time. You know, it's a little different for me this time because the last two times I was much more unknown. Mm-hmm. So I have to be more careful, more thoughtfulness this time because unfortunately well, I'm flattered by this, but unfortunately, when you want to be part of a community, you know, you have to be, your platform becomes your vulnerability. You know, I come in very respectful to the people that have been grinding and learning and building the tech and the early artists. And I'm not naive. I know that my projects and the things I care about will have a lot of eyes on them, which if I'm thoughtful will be good. And if I'm not thoughtful, ruins my reputation and upsets people. And so, you know, I hope the community can tell through my earliest actions over the last 6 or 7 weeks that I'm trying to be very thoughtful and I care about it. This is like the culmination of my life. I've never had a technology. Social media was close. I'm very human oriented. I love people. So social worked for me. I want to interact with people. I like replying to comments. It's not about post it and step away. It's about post it and listen, engage. I come from very little, so I never think I'm fancy. Like humility is an incredibly important foundation to my success. It may not come across that way. I know that I'm an aggressive communicator. I'm loud. I'm very excited, which sometimes I think people confuse for audacity, but I'm compassionate and empathetic, so I understand why. So I'm willing to deal with negative judgment up front because I know the truth wins, you know, so it's a very fun time. But NFT, my God, you know, the collectability aspect.
Well, wait, before we get into that, what I want to double down on what you just said is the word respect. And what I hope that I personally can add to this equation, bringing you on to an origin story, telling that origin story, telling, you know, why did you enter the NFT space? What I can add, following you since 07, you're loud sometimes, right? In sometimes the best of ways, but if someone catches you at just the wrong moment, just that literal wrong moment, they could have a different impression. What I personally want to say is I've watched you become obsessed with multiple things over the course of over a decade. And I can just say my stamp, for whatever that's worth for anybody listening to this, you are a respectful person and the empathy is outrageous. And if you caught Gary at the wrong moment for whatever reason, keep listening and you will all come around in due time.
That's made me emotional, so thank you. That's very, very nice of you. To your point, for example, this weekend, I'm like, oh shit, a lot of people who are in for a quick buck are gonna run into this and buy some project because somebody told them it's gonna go up. And when I say, hey, 97% of NFT projects, not the NFT space, are very vulnerable to not being successful investments, I believe that to be true out of history, out of knowing human psychology. I also, you know, and so you can imagine if somebody sees that, they're like, fuck this guy, like, you know, and I'm like, I get that. And I'm like, no. If you look at, to your point, if you look at the string of 40 things said, and that's what's tough about a Twitter or a clip, and that's why going on podcasts is nice. It's like, look, first of all, I mean, it was really fun. I had a really great moment yesterday. I bookmarked it because I was just about to go to bed, but there's a piece that I want to buy because I just like it. And so there's going to be.
Can you share?
Yeah, it's like this little ghost. I actually don't, it was that quick. I was like literally about to go to bed. And so like, you know what? I don't want to forget this. So I bookmarked it. I'll my phone's in the other room. I'll grab it. But like, it's just like a ghost that was drawn and like colored. And I'm like, this is neat. And I think it's on Nifty Gateway. And I don't know.
Is it the Trevor Andrew Gucci ghost maybe?
It might be, brother. It might be actually.
I got you, Gary. I'm so deep in this space right now. I got you, whatever you need.
I know you are, brother. And so you know, I'm excited because I think a lot of people, you know, I'm trying to help people have a very important combo, which is there's two very interesting dynamics. There's the reason I have this on my wall, and this costs a lot of money because it's a former employee of mine and she's trying to become an artist and I want to support her. And so that's exciting for me. And I'm excited to meet people and like big shout out to my friend Connor, who I met, you know, he's not a huge digital artist yet, but like, I want to support him because I like him. Like, and there'll be people, you know, I think my world's going to look like there's people I just like and I'm cheering for them and I want to support. Now, I will never tweet, this is a great investment. You should, because if I don't believe that, why would I do that to him, myself, or her, myself? But there's gonna be people I want to support their art because I like them. Then there's gonna be things like the ghost. I'm not even sure who's behind it. Back to your point, I think you're probably right now that my brain's thinking. But like that I just liked. I just weirdly like ghosts, like in general. Like I used to draw it a lot. Pac-Man was huge for me as a kid, so that kind of ghost. and I'll do that. And then there's going to be a ton I do. I'm a baseball card collector. I'm a comic book collector. I'm a toy collector. By nature, NFTs are incredibly interesting to me. The Street Fighter thing's really cool. I want to buy Blanca because I'm undefeated with Blanca and Street Fighter for Super Nintendo. But I also didn't buy it right away because I do think it, and you know, they were going to go up very quickly on wax. And then I'll buy it when it comes down. I don't see that as, again, as an investment. I'm going to put that on the flip side. You know, when I look at Pepe as a first play in Bitcoin, right? Truly NFT on Bitcoin, not Ethereum.
Yeah.
As a collector, I'm like, ooh, that has a real shot. But what's funny is when I use my brain and my heart, where I go is to CryptoPunks, because I'm like, okay, that's first Ethereum, but fuck, I really love these fuckers. This is Nintendo 8-bit. Yep. These really speak to me. Yep. Ethereum, obviously there's a lot of conversations around scalability. I'm spending all this time thinking about myself of wrapping coins because who the hell knows which blockchain's going to win. And so I'm just doing all this education, right? But I look at CryptoPunks very different than I look at Street Fighter Wax. Street Fighter Wax is singular. I need Blanca because I need to show my friends who I beat 1,000 times with Blanca and everybody would get upset because I figured out a way to play with him. That's a personal thing. CryptoPunks is, holy shit, this thing could really be an investment. If I'm as right as I think I am about NFTs, this project has a real shot. And those would be things that over time I'll put on the record and be like, this is what I believe in. So there's a lot of conversations to be had, but I appreciate you saying that. And I'm excited to earn my keep. I don't come in here, I'm fascinated by people that do well somewhere else and think that all of a sudden means that they should be looked, to me, I'm starting from the bottom in this community and I want to do all the right things. I also, and I did this in sports cards, I also remind people, look, there's a part of me that likes to collect and support. And there's a part of me that likes to trade. It is my, I told a lot of sports card people, I'm like, look, because they were mad. They're like, you shouldn't buy and sell. I'm like, look, I respect that. But are you really the human that gets to decide what I can do?
Right.
Like, I don't know if you're paying attention, but OpenSea exists, not for collecting. It's not like a collecting wall. Like these things exist. And so, and it's a very delicate conversation, right? One of the reasons so many artists are not going to be quote unquote starving is because of a secondary market. And
very true. What
is remarkable, I mean, literally, I don't know if you can see this, they're starting to form, getting a couple little goosebumps here.
Nice.
The fact that the artist can continue to get royalties.
It's a revolution.
It's a revolution, Roger. I mean, like, my God, I could super understand the artists of the past who would be super sad. They would make a painting, the gallery they had a deal on would pay them a certain amount, and they wake up 11 years later and the thing's selling for $11 million and they got 8,000.
Yep.
I mean, my God.
And now no matter how many OpenSea transactions there are and beyond, it's always that 10-ish% that's going back to the creator.
I can't get over it. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, to me, this is the greatest thing. So yeah, anyway, to origin story, like that was who I was as an entrepreneur. I did really well, invested in a lot of companies, built a large marketing company, have built a big content platform. This is the scariest of them all. I'm asking myself questions of like, oh, is this it? Like, is this going to be the one? Was this all built? For example, I know you pay attention to everything. You go, my team is finding all these videos of me doodling. I've never shared that part of me because I've never wanted to.
Okay, I can't, I'm going to poke around at that. Like Garyvee is where it's at. It just is.
I can't believe that something that I posted 4 or 5 of my doodles and I can't believe it. Like, I've always thought of myself far more creative than I've ever showed the world. It's actually similar to when I was the wine guy and then I started talking about business, and a lot of people were like, stay in your lane, wine boy, don't talk about business. And I was like, my God, I've always been a businessman. What's so incredible about minting and technology and vectoring and digital art, and I think there's gonna be millions of people who actually have artistic oomph, who are gonna dabble in a way that they never thought they could. And I think that's beautiful. It's gonna be an artistic revolution. Now, Now, I think a lot of people are going to misstep it because there's going to be so much conversation around finances. When people start seeing Blau or Beeple, or, like, they're going to see things that are going to confuse people. And this is, just for the community that's listening, this is what always happens. There's an art renaissance, and then comes commerce, and it gets a little blurry for a little bit. And just staying true to who you are during this time is imperative, because I do think it's going to be a little bumpy here for 24 to 36 months as it settles. Similar to ICOs, I think, Raj. If you go back 4 years ago, you had that kind of spike, and then you had all these coins, right? And it took market a little bit to level out kind of to where we are now. I don't think it will take 4 years, because I think we've learned from that. At least some people.
And things are so compressed these days that may be a 1 year shakeout period.
I think that's right. And I think that it's important to not get overly emotional about convincing. I think that's where a lot of people are going to get caught, the OGs trying to convince.
Yes.
I think I say, don't convince, have conviction.
It's a great quote. So Gary, I have a bit of a thesis here. Maybe I'll present it to you, see what you think. I think two categories of artists win. I hate to be a cold language like that, because here for the art as well. I kind of share with you the trader philosophy as well as the empathy and just the love philosophy. So I appreciate you saying that. I think two categories win. I think artists, let's say the top, 25 loosely, that are identified as blue chip artists, I think they'll have a consistent shelf life forever and ever. And then I think the second category, and what I would encourage any artist that doesn't know or gets a bit confused to focus on, I think the niche artist who does a great job of, to your point, having conviction and focusing on his or her community, even if it's small to mid-size, I think will have that longevity as well. What do you think about that?
I think that's right. I think there's I think both of those play out exactly to your point. I think that I also think it's the artist that genuinely cares about their community. And I think this is an important thing to talk about. There are a lot of artists who don't, and that's okay. I don't judge that. I just think that to build an economy around an art, everyone's like, oh, this is great. I, now the artist, don't have to rely on an agent or the gallery. What the artist has to understand when they take on that responsibility is just making the art is it's the variable, but it's only one of them. I remind people that art is in the eye of the beholder. There's a subjectiveness that is incredible around this. And actually cultivating a community of people that care about you, like, matters. And there's a million ways to do it. Banksy does it different than I do. The reason people care about me is I engage.
Right.
Like, for real, and so I think that will be interesting. Who's going to actually truly care about their early supporters? I've watched a lot of artists talk about like being OG, and then even in 3 weeks have watched them be less about their original community than the new fancy people that are talking to them.
Yeah, you're right.
That's just real talk. So like, they were razzing, and then 3 weeks later, they're doing the behavior of what they were razzing because now they have the opportunity too. Yeah,
I think that's the pitfall right there. If you get too caught up in the mania, that base, that strong foundation may not be there for you when the mania dies down.
And I think the other thing, back to the, be nice on the way up because people catch you on the way down. I think the other thing people have to be empathetic to is supply and demand. Just because you're first doesn't mean you're best. Just because you're first doesn't mean you made something that captures people's imagination. And so, just realizing that this is going to be a floodgate. One of the great things of the old world was limited people got into galleries. One of the terrible things of the old world is that limited people got into the galleries.
Good.
I look at this like influencer marketing, actually. Everybody can now be an influencer. And I think everybody now will have an opportunity to play out some of their ambitions in art. The art world said Jackson Pollock was not art until they did. This always happens. This is history. So what people have to be prepared for is actual supply and demand. There's going to be more supply over the next 6 months in NFT projects than anybody on this call listening or watching, me and you included, can comprehend.
100% agree.
Literally everybody. And most of it 98% of it is going to be short-term transactions, which creates a very interesting and scary bubble scenario. And so back to convincing and conviction, the OGs, the people that are really about it, the people that are here for, you know, for me, what shook me is like, oh, fuck, this is something I want to be a part of forever. Just like social media, right?
You did your back work, you saw it, and now you're here.
Correct. I spent the fourth quarter reading and watching. I even the thing that I most zeroed in on punks, I didn't act on, which I wish I did. You know,
They've come a long way.
They moved very fast there before I really got my hands around some. But I really wanted to do my homework. I needed to understand ERC 20 versus 721. Like I needed to be able to go on a podcast like this and not seem out of place, or like you're seeing with certain influencers and artists. I didn't want to do a project so fast where I didn't know I didn't know about all the metadata at first. I needed to understand for myself what would happen if a blockchain lost long-term. Could I wrap the tokens? Like I didn't even know what the term wrap meant, you know, 6 months ago. You know, I knew the macro thesis. I knew virtual currency was real for a long, long time. Hence, I'll be bringing out those videos to make sure everyone knows. But, you know, I understood a closed ecosystem of a skin in a video game. I understood a closed ecosystem of a Madden card. This brings this now to everything. And by the way, we're talking about a very narrow use of the blockchain and NFTs. I mean, this is incredible where this is actually going, from a ledger at scale to the digitalization of everything. I mean, we are in prehistoric days of this.
Yes. Gary, I want to play a game. So I know you love questions. I know you thrive in questions. And so I do something called a lightning round. I wanted to bring it in a little bit earlier and start hitting you with some rapid fire. I have some topics and I have some questions from the people. You ready for them?
Please.
All right. The first question I think everyone wants to know: was the first time you saw the word NFT, the concept NFT, the very first mention that captivated you?
Captivated me or the mention?
Let's go mention first, captivated second.
Mention's a while. Like, I remember thinking like, what's fungible? Like we're talking years now, right? You know, again, a big shout out to Aaron Battalion, who's an incredible CTO, co-founder of Living Social, which was a Groupon competitor back in the day in 2016, 17 range, in a hotel room in Austin, Texas. He broke down Ethereum for me, and I understood. I'm like, oh, okay, this is like, in my most basic form, I'm like, okay, Bitcoin is this thing. Ethereum feels like developers will build on top of it. Like I thought API, I thought platform. It got my brain thinking differently. And so very quickly after that, I already kind of like started hearing of NFT. The time it really caught my attention was probably about March of last year. Like something kind of caught my attention. I was getting big, you know, I was obviously deep in the sports card world. COVID hit and I was scaring shitless to make sure my companies were okay. And I just needed like 30 minutes, you know, occasionally just to like learn and be creative. And that's where I kind of like stumbled on maybe, you know, I don't want to make it up. So I just kind of like, I definitely knew about the Garbage Pail Kids wax thing.
That was one of the first things I found too.
Interesting, because that was, you know, obviously very much because I was deep into what's going on, you know, but that one, that was interesting to me because I'm like, what's wax versus Ethereum, you know, it's like, oh, different blockchains. Punks hit my radar, you know, lightly, and, you know, I'd seen some tweets, you know, I also knew the original developers from back, like the web 2.0 days. I knew the names. When it really caught me was this fall, like September, October, like CryptoPunks is an important project. And that led me down NFT. This is whoa. But I was like in Q4 mode, budgeting. You know, I'm an operator. People forget that I'm not actually quote unquote Garyvee. I'm like running a really big business. So I was trying to set it up, still navigating the waters of COVID, losing clients, what's going on, offices. And then I was able to use the holidays, like December, January, like the last week of December, first week of January, to dig even deeper.
The true explosion.
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is like, fuck me. I need to buy some CryptoPunks, you know, art blocks, what's this? And like Hashmasks. So I was like, oh, this is what OpenSea. I was like, this is really happening. And then I hit up my homie Kevin Rose former, founder of dig.com, and he's always on it. And he's like, I'm already in this. Then we started yapping, and the Juices Arab Italian, my brother, and like just the, this is feeling like 15, this is feeling like 2005, 6. This is feeling like 95. Oh my God, this is real, 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 real.
What's your first purchase?
My first purchase was a single CryptoPunk in January. Then I bought 4 Hashmasks randomly just to like play. And then I bought a Sorare Mbappe. So that was my first little burst of like 3 or 4 purchases.
All right, let's go rapid fire here. Topics. Number 1, New Jersey. I got to give the shout out to my wife, Marissa, from New Jersey. Seeing you in New Jersey, what do you think? New Jersey.
What's my like word association?
First word association.
The grind.
The grind. Love it. What's the top selling NFT concept 1 year from today?
CryptoPunks.
And that segues us right into CryptoPunks, word association.
The project.
The project. JETS.
My escapism.
Tom Brady.
He pisses me off.
Dirt.
Dirt?
Dirt.
Oh God, you know me well. Honest. And I want to break that one down.
Go.
Because I have so much compassion for who I think listens to this podcast. So many of you are from the dirt of NFT. And my admiration for that is at the highest levels. I think that people that come from the most humble places are the people I admire the most, genuinely. I believe in the process. Like I said, the Jets are my escapism because it's my journey to try to acquire. I don't want to, everyone's like, he's obsessed with owning the Jets. They're wrong. I'm obsessed with trying to buy the Jets.
The process.
The process. I've enjoyed the last 12 weeks. Many good things I think will happen to me in this space. None of which will ever compare to these moments. This is my first podcast that I'm really talking about it. The second I'm like, oh, I don't have to be scared anymore if Ethereum doesn't win, because I think this rap thing can help learning, right? The late staying up at midnight and being like, there was a Bitcoin project, Pepe, before Punks. Like those moments are everything to me.
Big deal.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I love it. Like the chats on Twitter, meeting the people, like having the convos, putting out a tweet of last night of like what podcast, canceling a pretty important meeting to do this with you right now because I need it. I want it. I love it. I love it.
Let's go the opposite. Let's go clouds.
Clouds?
Clouds.
When I think about clouds, I think about macro strategy. I refer to clouds as like what, why, like what. And so I think macro strategies when I think clouds.
Smurfs.
An IP I'd love to own. I grew up on Smurfs. I like that cartoon.
You own that IP, bring them into the NFT space.
Well, that's, it's so funny. There's a trillion, this is Steve, why it's such, Roger, why this is such a huge place for me. I've been talking about nostalgic IP at nausea for the last 7 years of my content. The manifestation of that in this space. Well, you know what makes me sad? So many of these incredible things, Scooby-Doo, Hanna-Barbera, Fraggle Rock, Happy Days, shit that I really love, like 70s and 80s pop culture. I know in my soul, 85% are gonna go sloppy into this space and ruin their brand. Let me phrase, dent their brand instead of exploding it. Hence why I talk about being thoughtful.
Yeah, those who get this right, the nostalgic brands who get this right are just going to Jupiter. Yard sales.
The thrill of the hunt.
UFC.
Incredibly underrated sport, even though it's so hot.
100% agree. The influencer who is not currently in or exploring NFTs who you believe should be in NFTs.
The Rock.
Nice, good one. And now, Gary, it's the people's lightning round. Farmed out 10 questions. Going to throw them at you, rapid fire them, or dive into them if you like. Number one, shout out Zook D. If the Jets win the Super Bowl, what current artist would you, Garyvee, commission to make a one-of-one of the moment?
I would do a humongous search and speak to the most authentic artist that is really passionate about the Jets, like can really ask my questions and also has an aesthetic style that I subjectively thought was epic.
That survey would be so key. Rooting out who is the real Jets fan.
Yeah, I think it would be such a moment. And if I was like, for some reason associated with being able to be the project, it would take a lot of thoughtfulness, like a micro version of what I've been doing for the last 6 months.
Number two, shout out Sutton S. When are you going to change your profile picture to a CryptoPunk?
When I buy a couple more CryptoPunks that I really want. You know, that's just an authentic answer, right? Like I really want to score one or two more things because I'm scared. I'm also, honestly, it's actually not an authentic answer. It's a 37. I am petrified to affect the market. Mm-hmm. I live this in sports cards.
I remember.
I'm very worried if that happens. It's funny, even this podcast, I'm giving you off. I don't know how to not answer the question. Mm-hmm. I'm not naive that this is going to be listened to. And like some people are like, oh, because I'm being very candorous. I also don't think I'm always right. I also think, who the fuck am I? But I also am aware that some people, which is why I'm like, do your own homework. I understand. Yes. I have a nice track record. Mm-hmm. I do have a nice track record. I do believe in my picking ability. Mm-hmm. But I picked Yo Bongo and thought it was going to be the biggest startup of all time, and it failed. So I think that I don't know when. I also think that what I'll probably end up doing, if it's okay with the CryptoPunks community, I'll have to probably ask the founders. I kind of want to like get someone who's talented enough to make their own custom version of me wearing like a green cap, a purple cap or a green cap, so I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I do think it will happen at some point.
I like that. TJ, shout out TJ. The real question is, do you own a CryptoCube? If not, when do you plan to get one?
I don't. I don't know when I plan to get one, but I want to do more more education on it. You know what I mean? Like what I'm doing is I'm not doing anything. Like I have smart friends. I have people that are being very generous with their intellect and knowledge. I just don't rush into things.
Yeah, smart man. Shout out New View Investor. Gary, how do you evaluate an NFT? What is your criteria?
The underlining information, supply and demand, who's behind it, what do I know about them? Do I think they're good? I think of it as jockeys and horses. The underlining data, the subjectiveness and my ability on the creative part, that's the horse. The jockey is, who's the human behind this? Do they understand how to cultivate a community in perpetuity, or are they just trying to do something for a quick win?
Right.
So those are the two big criteria.
Shout out to Wheel. NFTs with a physical counterpart. Does a physical devalue the NFT or does it not matter?
My intuition is that it enhances. Mm-hmm. I think it broadens people's intrigue. I think it's another data point to make it interesting. I don't know where the community sits on this, if they think that eliminates its purity. I could see a path to that. I also don't think anybody gets to make the rules. And I think that people that just want to do the NFT are right for them and themselves. And I think the people that want to do the physical counterpart are right for them and themselves.
Yeah, I think that one of the bigger issues right now in the space is the physical custody. No one knows how that's going to play out, right? Once that NFT with the physical counterpart is sold, the physical is distributed, and then that NFT is reposted on a secondary sales site. Do you get the physical? Do you not? What condition is it in? Did someone open? I think that's one of the bigger issues. I imagine someone's going to step in and take care of that.
It's funny. For me, my intuition is that they should be separated immediately. That the NFT, that's what's amazing about the blockchain and the ledger. It's like so incredible.
It is.
And I think let the real world do its real world thing. You're not going to ever be able to attach it. You've already created a vulnerability if you think you're going to attach it because of condition, provenance, like what really happened.
Right.
I think it's a nice to have. It's an added value. It isn't the thing.
Right.
Is how my stomach thinks of it.
Yeah, I think it's either that, and that's probably most cases, and then I imagine there's a service that comes out that does take custody and
mercantile it, and it just sits somewhere.
Exactly.
I think that's right.
Shout out Joel Miyazawa. what is your biggest pain point with NFTs?
You know what's so funny? My brain went here right away. It's my knowledge that it's going to get mucky here.
You know how this plays out.
I know how this plays out. And I remember the hurt feelings of people I loved in Web 2.0 when it started crossing the chasm of being commercialized. And the purity of we're going to change the world mixing with monies. And this one is much more transactional than that was.
Yes.
My biggest difficulty is knowing that there's going to be a lot of emotion, a lot of money lost, a lot of short-term thinking, a lot of bad characters, a lot of people becoming miffed of the overall space because they'll see somebody that they grew up with turn into, in their mind, somebody who's selling out, even though that person is just trying to do something, you know, that's good for their family. There's going to be emotions, and I know that. And so because I know that, it's like, ugh, this is why I think I'm speaking the way I am to everybody, which is like, hey, be prepared. It's okay. It's okay. Like, let go of convincing, lean into conviction, do it your way, because you'll win in the end. You will win in the end. You build a meaningful project that has real community. You might get outsold by somebody who's a better self-promoter, but let's talk about what it looks like in 9 years. And that's what I always play for. That's
the biggest deal, is ignoring the person who's outselling you now.
Correct.
Because it's so easy to look at that. It just
and having the humility to not impose your way of seeing this on everybody.
Yes.
People, you know, it's like, it's important because it's what happens to people that fall in love with a band that gets big. They start hating them.
That's right.
But you didn't get to control, you know, you don't get to control what the band's doing. You get to control how you enjoy it. You're in charge of that.
That's right. I knew about them first, right? It's that whole thing.
Which is going to happen a lot right now.
Yeah, no question. Shout out to Billelis, fabulous artist, by the way. How do we guarantee the longevity of the NFT space?
It's been guaranteed.
Nice. Good answer. Good answer. Also, Billelis. Okay.
It's real. Let me just triple down in that.
Yeah.
It's, you know, Google is a very big search engine. I was there when everybody was fighting it out. Yahoo, Dogpile, you know, Ask Jeeves, like all these things.
Ask Jeeves, good reference.
You know, and a lot of them were worth a lot of money on paper and they went to zero. But search engines are here.
Yep.
NFT, collectibles, arts, and all the music and all the beautiful things that are coming will be here for everyone's rest of their life. Is there a concern that all this gold rush will hurt the brand to the overall market? Of course. Will that not matter in the end? Of course. People thought the internet was a fad when the stock market collapsed in April of 2000 and everyone dismissed the internet. That's when I tripled down on the internet and changed my life. Yep. Do I think there'll be a crash of things that are selling for a lot of money right now? I do. I really do. But do I think that eliminates the market? No, I do not.
Yeah, it's inevitable, but I like your initial answer of it's already been guaranteed. Also a question from Bill Ellis. When are you, Garyvee, going to drink whiskey with me and Roger?
I'm open to it. I actually, you know, I am still through and through a wine man, and when my whiskey friends bring it out, but I am far from scared of having a good whiskey or a good bourbon or, you know, you know, don't forget my family owns a liquor store. I've got some stuff.
That's right.
I've got some stuff. I got some Pepe. I've got some stuff. I've got some Japanese stuff. I've got some stuff. So I'm in for it. I'm in for it.
Nice. Shout out Danette. Danette, were you bidder 65, Gary, in the Blau auction?
I was not. I saw that. That was not me. And I'm so happy for Blau. I really am. And talked to him a bunch before the process, but I was not.
Shout out Nicholas Costa. Where do you source your information in the NFT space? Who are you following?
It's funny. What a great question. I'm just following a lot of voices. I get into rabbit holes, speaking a lot to friends that I really know, like Scott Belsky, Kevin Rose, Lazaro, talk to those kind of characters who are a little bit more outside of it, right? Then I follow and listen to you, Matty, down in Australia.
DCLBlogger. Shout out Matty.
Huge fan. You know, Jeff Holberg, you know, has been somebody I've spent a lot of time with, you know, trying to think, because I want to make sure. Emmanuel, who was at Coca-Cola, has been very involved in Sorare. Matt at Larva was very gracious, and I was able to speak to. Kevin Rose has been a big factor because he's so truly, authentically a learner too. And I went through that with him. He's been big for me, and just continue to add people to conversations. Donnie over at Bitski, it was very gracious with several hours of time.
Bitski's picking up some heat right now.
You know, so, you know, you know, Beeple was very gracious and, you know, of his journey. And just a lot of people on DM, little tidbits. I also am a very interesting learner. I don't like taking anybody's points of view. I like listening to them, you know, and then kind of looking at things, you know. Mike Novogratz, you know, somebody I've spent some time talking to, like a lot of people, but I'm a very funny character. I take everything with a grain of salt because I'm aware that people have subconscious agendas.
It's very true.
Which I don't blame, you know, so I try to be thoughtful. I watch what people react to. You know, I watch every comment on the artifact drop. Like I read people more than experts. I read, you know, I try to get educated.
Gary, that's why I love this so much. I love seeing you dive into NFTs because I've seen you dive publicly into other things before. And I've seen your process before. And I've seen you get your hands dirty before. I've seen you go out there and like when it came time, right? When that came time and when the next book came time, I've seen you get out there and then I've seen you pull back and go through this process that's as old as time. I love that our paths intersected in this space and seeing you do it here. It's really meaningful to me separately. And I just think that everyone listening to this in NFTs should be really excited that you're doing it.
I appreciate that. I like being good for communities and I know how to do it. And I think when you have a big microphone like I do, which I've earned, so that there be no confusion.
No doubt.
I'm going to be very careful with it, incredibly. And I will make micro missteps because we all do. But I think when you have a platform, those get compounded. So I'm petrified to do so. And I just really enjoy this community so much. And look, I mean, let's call a spade a spade. There is the art combo. There's a heavy layer of collectability in this. A lot of the tokens are very grounded in video game, sports card, comic book culture, something that I feel deeply comfortable in. Deeply. You know, I've never collected art and flipped it. I've only supported art, which is awesome actually, because I think that's going to be good for me in this space. But boy, do I like buying an athlete, you know, NBA Topshot.
Yes.
I think it's an incredible project for a million reasons. I also think it's an incredibly interesting project because I think a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money. Not because Topshot's doing anything wrong. Roham's incredibly thoughtful, flow. I think it's amazing. It's that those are more like sports cards. They'll be the next one and the next year and the next year. And I know what Kevin Garnett and Chris Paul and Tim Duncan and Patrick Ewing rookie cards go for. There's not a sustainability to Topshot long-term. And so I'm very concerned of how big that crash will be on it, especially because it's by far the biggest project for the normal consumer. Does that hurt, quote unquote, the space? It may.
Yeah.
This is why we have to educate and say things like this. I'm a macro monster fan of Topshot. I think it's so cool. Basketball, the best culture.
Yeah.
But I'm also a monster fan of sports cards, but I'm out there saying all the time that if you buy rookies and not LeBron and Jordan, somebody's going to be held with the bag.
You're going to get hurt.
And
look at the junk wax era, right? What's happening right now in Top Shots? Right now they're starting to say anyone who reserves will get it. Well, that's a supply faucet that's been turned on.
But even if you go to the original stuff, Terry Rozier can't maintain long-term value.
Right.
Tyler Hero can't. They have to become a top 25 player of all time. And I think Terry Rozier, I bring up Hero and Rozier as guys that I admire tremendously, who at this point, I'm pretty convinced are not going to be one of the 25 to 50 best players of all time.
Right.
And I tell people to go look at Vince Carter or Dirk Nowitzki rookie cards and then look at current player rookie cards who are 4 times more expensive on supply and demand. And I say, put that into Topshot. You need to be careful. Don't forget, there's a bunch of Ethereum and Bitcoin trillionaires, right, who are diversifying, which creates economic dynamics. So it's just a time to be thoughtful and a time to focus on your conviction. I'm excited to be a part of it, and I thank you for your time.
Man, Gary, it's been an absolute pleasure today. Let's grab that glass of whiskey with Billelis sometime.
Send me a DM. Let's do that.
I will. Absolutely.
Right. Love
Thank
you.
Gary.
I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.